These are the 6 impacts of staying with an avoidant for too long. The first is that you confuse anxiety with attraction. This is due to the avoidant cycle that you're essentially going through, where wherever you try to get close to them, they ended up pulling away, and then the moment that you started pulling away, they essentially tried to get back with you in some way or some form. And because you've gone through this, you've conditioned to believe that having anxiety towards someone is essentially a sign of attraction because of that push and pull dynamic that you've had, which is so very convincing when you're in that cycle because you can't really distinguish between the two, and realizing that anxiety is definitely not attraction, but it's so hard for you to again distinguish it in there. And this is due to you going through that so many different times that it has been conditioned, which confuses you to feel like it's a good thing in the sense that you're having an attraction towards them. But when you take a step away from the relationship and you start to heal, you will see that this was a really negative thing that was happening, and this was causing you to essentially be so confused and be addicted to that feeling. Number 2 is that you shrink yourself to be easier loved. Now, this is again due to having that push and pull dynamic, right? You have gone so long being in that type of relationship that you start to want to actually shrink yourself down so that you don't have to run into triggering this person, right? You try to do everything that you can to make sure that they're not going to start to pull away from you because you don't want that to happen and you genuinely want to be in the relationship with the person. And while you think that you're only doing that with them, you are essentially changing your whole dynamic, right? Because it's hard for you to distinguish that, right? It's very hard for people to go from one relationship to another and start to think like, oh, I'm just only going to act this way with this person and that's it. It starts to change your identity to where you are fearful to just want to express yourself the way that you normally would in a healthy relationship. So because of that, you think that this is just how you are, but in actuality, it's a byproduct of you being in a relationship with someone who is an avoidant, and you are essentially trying to do this to make sure that you don't trigger their avoidant attachment style. Number 3 is that your self-worth starts to take a hit. This is very typical for a lot of people who are going through a relationship with an avoidant because they genuinely feel like they are the main problem, right? Because the avoidant either does it directly or indirectly with communicating to them that there's something wrong with them that's causing the avoidant to react this way. But in actuality, we all know that this is due to the avoidant, right? This is on them. They are projecting this onto you. But it's so easy for you to get caught up to make yourself feel like you're the issue because, again, you love this person and you want to take their feelings and their thoughts and all these different things into consideration. But this way of thinking and being is 100% on them, and it's not on you at all, right? They have to work through this on their level, but by them projecting it onto you, you are made to feel like you are the problem. And because of that, it takes a hit on your self-worth because, again, there's this script running in your mind feeling like you're doing too much. You're making them feel uncomfortable or vulnerable, or why can't you just get things right? But in actuality, this was always how it was going to be because they have to work through this on their end, right? And if they don't, it's always going to come up because they're going to project that on you no matter what. And the longer that you stay in that relationship, the more it's going to deteriorate that to where you essentially have no clue who you are or what your self-worth is anymore because it's something that has been chipped away so long and you are unrecognizable to yourself anymore. Number 4, you stay in a relationship that is built on potential and not reality. This tends to be, again, another big thing that a lot of people share when they go through a relationship with an avoidant because you are really holding on to that, right? That's your North Star, is the potential of what the relationship could be. And it's why you tend to stick around in the relationship because they show different signs that they can be loving and caring and that the relationship can really work if they would just drop this avoidant attachment style. But this again is just really potential because in order for you guys to get to that point, they are going to have to do the hard part, and that is to actually work through this. But typically they don't end up doing it. And if they do, it ends up being long after you guys have the relationship because it does take a while for them to actually process this, right? So our minds ends up tricking us believing that the potential that we had in our mind is what things were, right? And how things are, and that we essentially are messing it up by being too much or pushing them or whatever it is that you're telling yourself. But in actuality, it wasn't going to get to that point until they actually did their part in doing what is necessary for for them to heal from this avoidant attachment style. Number 5 is that you begin to fear healthy love. This is something that is very correlated to that push and pull dynamic, right? You are essentially in fear of a healthy love in the sense that opening up, expressing emotions, dealing with conflicts, all of the things that you would expect to have in a healthy relationship ends up being a negative thing because that avoidant looks at those things as being negative. And whether you realize it or not, you are starting to interpret that as well. And you are starting to look at these things and be conditioned that way because you're trying to avoid having them have this reaction. So your subconscious mind begins to look at all of those things and says, nope, that's not a good thing to do. We don't want to be that way because they have conditioned you to be that way, either directly or indirectly with this avoidant attachment style. So you start to look at this relationship as being a healthy thing or more secure, but in actuality, it's not. And there's a part of you that realizes that and knows it, and you're having this hard, difficult battle going back and forth with that. But once you get to step away from the relationship and start to heal from it, you'll see how this is essentially causing things to make you feel this way. And it's not at all true to how you feel. It's more on them and what they have projected on you, which has clouded your judgment on what you actually want and think. And number 6 is that you put yourself last. This is how it's always been since day one of you guys getting into a relationship together, right? You've put aside all of your wants, needs, desires, your boundaries, everything to try to make this relationship work, right? Because you believed in it. You really thought that you could get this person to turn things around and realize how valuable both you and the relationship are, and for them to want to actually work things out. But in actuality, you've gone above and beyond. You've met them more than halfway, and they just essentially never did their part, right? They took it for granted and they thought that this is how things are, and they didn't do anything to, again, try to meet you halfway. So because of this, you end up not getting your needs met at all, right? You're constantly putting them first, and this is so draining. You cannot live in a healthy relationship like this for so long because you need to have your needs met as well, right? It needs to be 50-50. Not saying that there may be some days where you go a little bit more than the other person. That's perfectly fine. But there needs to be some kind of reciprocation back and forth between each other and some type of understanding. And this just typically doesn't happen, right? You typically have it being one-sided heavy, and it's you doing everything all at once. And I hope by now you're realizing the theme here and understanding that it's time for you to figure out what's best for you here. Chances are you've gone through enough of this and that you are tired emotionally, physically, and it's time for you to listen to that side of you now, right? You did everything you possibly could here. You've tried so many times to get this person to just wake up a little bit and put some effort into this, and they're just not. They're not ready for that. They have to figure out what they need to do to heal from this avoidant attachment style if there's ever going to be a chance for you guys to actually have a healthy relationship. And again, this may take a while because there's a lot that they have to process and work through, and that's even if they want to, right? They have to get to a place where they genuinely want to make that change, and they have to stick to it because it's so easy for them to just push away again and just be, you know what, I'm just going to stick to being this way, and it is what it is. And what you need to understand here is that you need to prioritize yourself and figuring out what's best for you. You already know what that is. It's now time for you to have the courage and commitment and love for yourself to stick to that because that is what is important here. But with that being said, I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.